What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs trade pieces. Now, I've had so many people comment and say, who do the Leafs even have to trade? What type of value do they even have in a trade? They don't have cap space. They don't have this, and this. This is the bread and butter of this channel. I've been doing this longer than most people on here. I talk about trade rumors. I talk about trade talk all the time. So we are getting into it. I know it's kind of early, but guess what? I had to because there hasn't been a ton of hockey on. People have been asking for videos. So I'm trying to make some extra early content for you guys. So I'm taking time out of my schedule, which is pretty busy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And I'm going to be trying to make way more trade rumor content and way more videos that you guys request. So make sure to request videos down below about rumors, trades, whatever you want. And for the holiday season and for the new year, make sure to like this video and subscribe. That would be the greatest gift you could give me. Join the squad. I'm trying to get to 11K, 15K, 20K, whatever you guys are able to help me with. I'd really appreciate it. But let's waste no more time. Let's get into this. So what pieces do the Leafs have? If we're going to be getting closer to the NHL trade deadline, if we're going to be getting closer to the Leafs trying to upgrade this roster to be an actual Stanley Cup contender, what can they do to get better? And how can they get better? Well, that could be a video in itself. But I personally think it's going to be acquiring a top 4 defenseman and probably a winger that can give you some offense and some grit. Maybe not in the bottom 6, but kind of a guy that can fill in that third and second line role. What they were hoping to get with Foligno, but didn't actually work out. So we'll have to get into that into another video and maybe some options. But what do the Leafs have to offer as we get closer? And it's going to change. And that's why I want to make this video now so that way we can do it a few times and see how that could change. But we're going to get into some names. And some of it's going to have to do with cap hit. So the first one is probably no surprise. We've talked about this before. Justin Holl. Now, that $2 million price tag, the way he's been playing this year, it's not like it's going to be hard to trade that contract because I get it. There's so many fans that think the Leafs and their fans are delusional. Oh, this guy sucks, and they're saying they're going to get this, and this, and it's going to be a big trade and blah, blah. I'm not saying Justin Holl is going to be out here making a massive trade and we're going to get a king's ransom or anything like that. But Justin Holl will get you a middle draft pick. He will. It's a $2 million cap hit for a guy that's proven that he can play in the top 4. But it might not just be working out with the Leafs anymore. It might not be the greatest fit. And if the Leafs want to upgrade in that top 4, they're going to have to shed a little bit of salary, and he's probably the guy that makes it work. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because he did get scratched a few times this year, and we've seen him get demoted to the third pair a couple times, and Timothy Liljegren has come up and taken his spot a little bit. Now, I mentioned this before. The Toronto Maple Leafs are not looking for a ton of offense, but you're hoping to get a little bit more production from Justin Holl than 1 point in 24 games played so far. And again, I'm not saying the Leafs have to be some all-out offense team and that their blue liners need to put up points, but I think in the position that him and Jake Muzzin, both of them, no excuses, have been in, that there needs to be a little bit more from both of them. And it just seems like the fit isn't working because when other guys are being played with Muzzin, he's playing a little bit better. When Holl is dropped down to a lesser role, he's playing a little bit better, but still not that great. So the Leafs might just have to move on from Justin Holl and see if they can get a draft pick. But the only way that I'm okay with a deal like this is if they are going to upgrade that top 4. If they're going to be shedding this salary, it's because they're going to be going after another guy that can play in that top 4, or at least a guy that they can bring in that would make a lot of sense for them on that blue line. So the next guy is Travis Dermott, kind of in the same realm here. $1.5 million cap hit. With the emergence of Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren, there's no need to be holding on to Dermott unless you have the cap space, and the Toronto Maple Leafs now and in the future do not have the cap space, especially if they want to upgrade. So Dermott's a guy that you have to consider moving. Now, if you move Justin Holl, do you move both? I don't know. That's a question that you'll have to ask yourself, and that's something that I would answer. I would think they only move one of them, but if they have the opportunity to bring up a guy who is a cheaper cap hit, or bring in another depth guy at a cheaper cap hit, kind of like what they did with Bogosian. Maybe they move on from both Hall and Dermott and get that $3.5 million that they can use on a cheaper defenseman and use towards a bigger trade by shedding other salary around the team, which is still very possible. And again, towards the trade deadline, we've seen Dubas do it before. We've seen other teams do it. It's not like this is some magical Doctor Strange thing that only the Leafs can do or that other teams can do. They can get teams to eat half of the cap towards the deadline, especially if it's a 1-year deal. You can have it as a 3-team trade, so that way other teams eat some of the money. It's happened before. It'll happen again. And the Toronto Maple Leafs could find the cap space. And using Travis Dermott could be another piece. So he's got the deal for this year and next year. So teams who want a guy who's still fairly young, he's 25, for the next 2 years at $1.5 million, he could be useful. And he hasn't been that bad for the Leafs this year, but again, it could just be coming down to a money thing. And if they want to use that $1.5 million towards something else, they could be doing that. He could be one of the odd men out. Now, this one could come as a little bit of a surprise to some people, and that's Nick Richie. Now, the reason I say surprise is because of that $2.5 million cap hit and the fact that it's this year and next year. I have to remind people from all over the world, if you're watching this video right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs can move this contract. Other teams have moved way worse contracts. They've moved way worse players. They've moved way longer deals. Guys, let's not just sit here and say that it's going to be the easiest deal to move, but it's also not going to be the hardest. Far from it. If the Leafs feel like this is a move that they need to make and they need to move Nick Richie, they're going to do it, and it's going to happen. They might have to attach a prospect to him. They might have to attach a pick to him. I don't know. But if they feel like getting rid of that $2.5 million to bring in a cheaper contract for a winger, or to call up a prospect, or to call up Josh Hosang, something like that, they're going to have to move on from that $2.5 million. And they're going to do it. Let's just look at it, okay? Because I know there's some people already disagreeing with me. I know what he brings, and I know he's been looking a little bit better lately. But that $2.5 million, if you can flip it into a top 4 defenseman, and I'm not saying him for a top 4 defenseman, I'm saying his money. If you can use this money towards something better, the Leafs are going to have to do that. That 26 points in 56 games last year with 15 goals and the grit that he brings has been lost. 8 points in 29 games played. He has not been producing. He has not been doing what he was advertised as from last season. It looked like he was going to be taking a step with this team. He's not fast enough. He doesn't have the ability to keep up with the top 6. And it's unfortunate because I actually was very excited about Richie. I thought that he would be a really good fit in Toronto. You know, just being in that top 6 with that much talent, you would think that it would work. But it's worked for other people. It's worked for Andre Kasha, who is obviously less of a physical threat, but he plays the role of, tapping pucks in and being in the right spot at the right time. It's worked for Michael Bunting, who is gritty, who goes to the front of the net, who plays a similar style as Nick Richie, but is a better player offensively and is obviously younger. Well, they're around the same age, or they actually might be the same age, but you get what I mean. He's playing at a little bit of a more younger style with Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares, who is still, not a young guy, but he's playing still in that, high octane offense, tons of goals, tons of points style, whereas Nick Richie isn't playing that style of hockey. He isn't part of that style of hockey, whereas Bunting has kind of adapted to that. He can play the grittier tap-in style, but he's also playing at that fast-paced, high level. So Richie could be a guy that the Leafs move on from. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is prospects. Now, any trade deadline or any big name that comes up, or whenever a team has lots of cap space or anything like that, and they're going after a high talented player, it's always, you're going to have to give up a prospect. You're going to have to give up 2 top prospects, whatever it is. The Leafs still have guys that they can attach to trade that can make them better. The Leafs can attach good guys that they have in their minor league system or their minor system. I say minor league system as if it's baseball, but their minor system. They can bring up guys, they can trade guys that actually do have value. For some reason, people think the Leafs are depleted with their Marlies system and with their international system, but they're definitely not. They have a lot of guys that they could work with. So an article was posted a little while ago here. I can't remember. It was Luke Fox. He posted, some prospects that the Leafs have. Of course, Nick Robertson, which we'll get into. They also have Topi Namela, who's definitely untouchable. He probably won't be in any trade, in my opinion. Amirov, who is a former first-round pick for the Leafs, who could definitely be a part of a trade that I did not think he would be, but he definitely could. Matthew Nyes, I believe that's how you properly pronounce it. I've heard some people say it differently, but I'm pretty sure it's Nyes, who's been really good, and he's in the World Juniors right now. Alex Steeves is another guy who's pretty damn good, playing for the Marlies right now. Of course, he's hit some injury trouble. Robertson's hit some injury trouble, but these are some of the guys that you would have to kind of look to see if you want to upgrade, especially if it's a top 4 defenseman. And before, I never thought Nick Robertson could be a piece in a deal, but it depends on who you go after. Robertson could definitely be a part of a trade. Now, I know that's going to upset a lot of people, and it would upset me, but if Robertson can come up and be productive for the Maple Leafs at a cheap cap hit, sure, it looks great for the Leafs. But if they can go in right now and get a top 4 defenseman that would make them substantially better, even though they're already playing pretty damn good hockey when it's actually on, of course, with what's going on right now, Robertson might have to be a part of it. You give a little to get a little, okay? You can't just give scraps for something that's good, okay? You have to give something of value. I've seen people say Liljegren and Sandin, their contracts and their potential upcoming contracts are going to be too cheap for the Leafs to give up on them. Nick Robertson is a forward that the Leafs might be able to be a little bit expendable with. If it's not Robertson, it could be the next guy that I'm going to talk about, and that's Amirov. But, of course, his entry-level deal, pretty damn cheap. And his numbers, as you've seen in the OHL with the Petes, he could have had a 60-goal season if it wasn't cut short. He's put up big numbers. He's done really well with the Marlies, but the injury bug has hit him. With the Marlies, even in 2 games, he's got 2 points. But even coming up with the Leafs, he hasn't looked bad. He's looked like he can play at the NHL level, even when he got called up for that, bubble playoffs there. He had 1 goal in 4 games against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But, him and a guy like Amirov, they're both guys that are high offense, highly valued by a lot of scouts and teams that we've heard of. So obviously with Amirov, he also is a first round, pick, number 15 overall. A lot of people were surprised by this one. He's had a little bit trouble getting into the lineup in the KHL, but there's a lot of different reasons for that. So I can't really touch into that because it's a lot deeper in terms of what some KHL scouts and KHL reporters are talking about. Nothing bad. It's just, he's not getting his opportunities, which is unfortunate. But, he's played at the World Juniors, the under-20 championships for Russia. He's played really well in the KHL. He's got a wicked shot. He can skate. He can move. This is something that the Leafs would have to really think about, because I think Amirov is part of their long-term plans. I'm sure, every first-round pick is a part of teams, overall bigger plans. But like I said, you have to give a little to get a little, okay? You have to give a lot to get a lot. And if you have to, piece together prospects and picks to acquire something that can make your team substantially better now, a guy like Amirov could be a guy that could be a part of it. Now, there's also been rumors that the Leafs would at least like to see him in North American hockey, and it looks like maybe if he's not getting enough time in the KHL, that he could potentially come to the Marlies next season, and that could change the whole dynamic of what they do with him. So we'll have to maybe wait for that. So I'm not really sure if that means he's not a trade piece right now, but I seem to think that he could be. The next thing here is, and it's probably the last thing I'll talk about, is draft capital, draft picks. So The Leafs have their first for the next 3 years. They have their second for the next 3 years. They've got they've got a couple thirds here, not the next one. They don't have their next fourth. They don't have their next fifth. They don't have their next sixth. So this first round pick in 2022 could potentially be very valuable to the Leafs themselves. But maybe the picks in 2023 are something that the Leafs potentially move on from. Maybe even a 2024 pick. So there's a lot of options here. There's a lot of picks that we haven't seen the Leafs have this many picks that they could potentially lose in quite some time. And I know not everybody is high on trading a lot of draft picks, but you have to understand this. For somebody like Kyle Dubas, for somebody like Sheldon Keefe, for somebody like Brendan Shanahan, for a lot of the players, this could really be the last chance this team has at keeping everyone together before people get fired and before people get traded. The Leafs can't afford to do the same thing again this year. This is where they have to go in and go, okay, we need to really significantly upgrade this team. It's not just the Canadian division anymore. The Leafs are playing well with teams from all over the NHL. They're in as a top 10, top 5 team right now, depending on who you ask, but they've looked really good. And if they can upgrade on the defensive position and they need to lose some of their future, which includes draft picks, then that's just going to have to happen. So I potentially think that these pieces that I've showed to you guys so far, because it's only the end of December here, we have lots of time before this happens. Who knows when it's going to happen because of what's going on right now. This is an early look at what the Leafs could potentially move on from. These are some potential pieces that the Leafs could move on from. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this video. What pieces are untouchable for you? What pieces do you think I'm wrong on? Maybe that I'm right on. List some pieces that you think could be available. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, a lot of people are going to say Kerfoot. I definitely disagree, but that's something we can talk about. Recommend videos down below. And hopefully you guys like this video and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.